Welcome, everyone, to panel number 14, I believe. I really should have done my prep work of the SPFBO, SPIF box. We are here with 3 of our 4 guests, and we will mock Michael Michel mercilessly if he shows up. So, Michael, if you're watching, you know what's coming. Let's do a quick round of introductions first. And Dave, let's start with you. Who are you? Why are you here? And will you be my friend till the heat death of the universe?
The heat death of the universe is a long commitment. So I just met you. So we'll work on that. That's good. I am a former geology professor.
Hold on.
Yes.
Okay, so somebody has something turned on in there.
I can't hear it.
You can't hear an echo?
Nope.
I'm the only one?
You're hearing voices, Ro. I always knew it was going to happen.
No, it was me, because I'm a dumbass. Okay, sorry. Carry on.
Okay. Sorry, Dave. Go ahead.
Are we just continuing as if that never happened?
Yes, we're going to pretend it didn't happen.
Awesome. All right. I'm a former geology professor, now writing pretty much full time, and this is my 4th SPFBO, and I am really excited. I do it about every couple of years because I don't have a book ready every year. So yeah, I'm really excited to be part of it this year, and I have a new book that I just brought out yesterday, so just in time for the competition. And I assume I'll get to tell you more about it in a bit, but I don't want to step on everybody else.
Okay. Paulsating, and I'm assuming that's a pen name, but please tell us about yourself.
It shows how clever I am, or I think I am. So Paulsating, a author now for 5 years, which is crazy. Childhood dream after getting out of the military. I wanted to do the thing I wanted to do with my whole life. So here I am. This is my first ever contest. So I'm excited about this year. This whole experience has been absolutely wonderful. I write in a bunch of genres. I'm trying to do better about that. I'm trying to be a good boy, but there's just so many stories and exciting different genres in my head. It's really hard to be disciplined, says the career military guy.
You can see how well it's worked out for me.
Okay, and last but not least, Arista. And actually, you're not least because Michael is here.
Hi.
Somehow. Hi. Arista, tell us about who are you, why are you here, and are we going to be friends till the heat death of the universe?
I think we probably will be.
Okay.
I'm Ari, obviously. This is the first time I've entered SPFBO. I heard about it last year when RK Ashwick got into the semi-finalists because I'm friends with her on Tumblr. And I've been spending the half a year since waiting for this one to open.
Okay, and what is your book?
Sorry, yeah, that would help, wouldn't it? Changeling is the name of the book.
And do you have it handy to show us?
I do have it handy. Right there.
Awesome. I love the cover.
Thank you.
And now we will go to our fashionably late superstar with one of the coolest covers I've seen in a very long time. Michael, how are you? And tell us about you and your book. And can you tell us how to pronounce your last name? Because Andrew Wizard complains all the time he doesn't know.
It's Michel, which is interesting because it's the French version of Michael. So in pretty much every language, my name is Michael.
Okay.
Yeah, there you have it. So this cover that you're talking about is the entry for this year's SPFBO, Way of the Wizard. I entered last year with The Price of Power and was Andrew's semifinalist. So apologies for being fashionably late. I don't know how fashionable it is, but I certainly was late. And sorry, so many things. I'm on like hour 57 or 8 of not eating any food. I'm doing like a fast, and so if I topple, you'll know why in this midstream. So hopefully I'm stringing sentences together. That's really what I'm going for right now. So
that's optional on our show, so don't worry about
it. Don't worry about being late. We're just happy anybody shows up at all.
Well, happy to be here. Nice to meet all of you.
Likewise.
Right, yeah, you are each other's competition. So this is something new Mike and I thought of today. We want you all to go through and rip the hell out of each other and tell why you're so much better than them. Go.
Or you can just tell us what group you're in.
Or you can do it that way too. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think I'm not in the same group as any of these folks, so I don't have to get feisty with them until I make it out, which is unlikely. So, yeah, so we're all friends. All friends here.
So, Dave, you volunteered to start. So what group are you in?
I'm on Team Weather Drifter, Esme Weatherwax. And
Weatherwax? Okay.
Yeah.
So she's probably read your book already.
I know. She's going so fast. I've been, of course, obsessively checking her Goodreads to see, and I don't even know if it's Esme has got it or Star Drifter. So, yeah. But Esme goes super fast, and so I may know my fate way faster than the rest of you. I don't know. We'll have to see.
So, how about Paul? What group are you in?
Is it Kitty G?
Kitty G. She's new, so don't know anything about her.
So
did it
2 rookies then?
Yeah, I think she's just come back.
Oh, did she just come back? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
you would know better than I.
Blogger who's been the judge before, but I think coming back this year.
Okay.
See, I was only in for a couple blinks of the eye last year, and then I was out. So
Mike found out he was chucked out the same time he found out which one he was in. Hi, I'm the person for Fantasy Faction. You're done.
In the same email. That's great.
So, Arista, you've already made it longer than I did. So, what group are you in?
I'm in Lynn's books and the Critiquing Chemist.
Ah, okay.
And I know nothing about them.
Okay, and finally, Michael?
Well, I don't think Paul went, or did he?
Yeah.
Oh, you
Paul's
did?
in Kitty G.
Oh, you're in Kitty G, Mike.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can make it through this thing. I apologize. I would say if we all become competition, we've already won because it means we'd be in the finals. Yeah. So I'm happy to cheer you 3 on. I am in Before We Go blog, and I've never been in that one before, but I'm excited about it because it seems like one of the more grim, dark groups. And even though this book is not per se grim dark, it is dark. So I'm excited. I'm also excited to not check everything SPFBO all the time this time around. I'm excited to have a more relaxed approach, having done it before. The being involved in it without the stress seems more fun.
Preferable?
Yeah, preferable for sure.
Has anybody else been in it before?
No.
Dave has. Arista, you haven't?
Nope.
So aside from that kind of laid back attitude, what else can you share from your experience previously for these two?
If I can just interrupt, we have another person, Amber, who just logged on, who I don't think is supposed to be here. Do we want to admit her? And let's. Hi, Amber. Did you happen to choose the wrong link? Oh, I guess you did.
There we go.
There we go.
I posted. Okay, so both of the links I was sent. One was for it said like YouTube, and then one said your entry. Both of them were the same one, and I posted the one that said YouTube, and then people were like, "Hey, that's the entry," and I was like, I cut it out. So sorry.
So that was me, and I wasn't fasting, so I got noticed.
You were doing the opposite of fasting. You were snarfing down a pint of Ben and Jerry's last night.
So Dave, tell us about your previous experience.
Yeah, so I've entered this. This is the 4th time, and I've entered SPFBO, which is the sci-fi sister competition, twice. I've had wildly different experiences in terms of how far I got in each time.
This one
is
still active in the finals.
SPFBO this year. So the first year my book got flushed in the just in the slush phase. It was just out, and the guy, I think, it didn't resonate with him, and so I was in and then out and then nothing, kind of like your experience maybe. And then the second year, it was kind of the same thing. And then the third year, I was a semifinalist in one group and tied with 4 others, but they went with one of the other 4 for the finalists. So, but that was cool because I was in it for longer and got a little more attention. But yeah, it's so sort of random, not entirely random. There are, books that I think are pretty clearly not ready for it that you can kind of see in some groups. And those tend to go out quickly. And then there are a whole bunch of books that are certainly, good quality that just don't make it with the right judge that would have appreciated them more. And then, so it can be just kind of weird and a little frustrating, especially your first time, to kind of see how it all goes. But what you learn doing it more is that the community is actually really, really cool. And so even if you go out early, if you're hanging around with all these other people who are totally into, indie fantasy, then you're already kind of getting the most out of what you might get. And you can be on video shows like this, or you can get reviews, or you can do promos. And so it's really more the community than the competition until you actually make it a little ways into it. And then it becomes very stressful and fun and all of that. Yeah.
So
sorry, just totally unrelated. You're in North Carolina right now?
Yes.
Are you from further north?
I am from Iowa originally. Yeah.
Right. Go ahead.
Which is technically further north, but farther west than that. Yeah.
So I just want to ask, for the 4 of you, if you make it to the finalists, Ro and I interviewed 9 of the 10 finalists for SPFBO 9, and it was a pillow fight at best. It was everyone's books are wonderful. I hope we all tie. Can you all please promise to throw some elbows and make it interesting if you make it to the finals?
Well, I grew up watching professional wrestling, so I know all about the eye gouging and all of the dirty tactics. So I'm
Steel
down.
chair from the
perfect.
Oh gosh, awesome. I'm doomed then.
Arista, what your move is to be the one person who doesn't come on the show, finalist, and then you win.
Fair. That's a good tactic. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah, the one guy who we didn't interview.
And Dave, we have bad news for you.
Bye. I'm leaving. Peace out.
And Dave, we have bad news for you because we're doing the SPFBO, and we have 5 of the 6 finalists who have committed to come on our show. So I'm sorry, you've lost, because the one person who doesn't come on, Lee Saunders, apparently, who I cannot get in touch with in any way, shape, or form. So apparently she's going to win if we keep our streak alive.
Okay. Well,
so, sorry to tell you, but here's your book.
That's another thing to worry about is the Moe and Roe curse here. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready for a silly question?
Oh God,
sure.
As I'm gonna be.
Arista, would you like to go first?
Oh God, go on then.
Okay. What is your favorite holiday and why? And how would the presence of your main character change that?
Ooh. Well, my favorite holiday is Halloween. Because it's my favorite time of year. I like autumn. I'm not sure how Lizzie would change Halloween.
Is Lizzie the changeling?
Lizzie is my main character, yes. I think actually the secondary, because it's changeling is dual point of view, I think the secondary character would change Halloween more. Andric, because he's a vampire. So that would make Halloween a bit more realistic.
Okay. Paul, how about you?
I kind of got to ride with Arista's comment. It would be Halloween. It's my favorite anyway. We do we're those obnoxious neighbors that put the tent out in the driveway. We've got the fire pit. We drink alcohol as people with children walk up and down the street. We throw candy. I'm the guy who has the dual microphone system, and I'll bury it in leaves by the drainage gate, and I'll make creepy voices when the kids are walking by it. So we have a lot of fun on Halloween. Thornbane, my main character, she's a human who's been hexed by a coven of witches, so she has taken on a more demonic form. So she wouldn't really change it because she would fit in, but she could start my fire pit without me having to do all the work, which means I could get to the booze earlier. So
Okay, Dave, how about you?
Well, I was just imagining, I mean, I don't know what my favorite holiday is, but I was trying to imagine Lady Isovar and Chevson showing up to Halloween, which would be a riot, because her deal is that she goes after any foe she finds, whether she understands that the thing is a foe or not. And so she would probably be running down the street trying to beat up all the little kids in costumes because she's got this misguided sense of heroism and rushes into combat all the time. So that would be terrible. And then Jemson, who's that's her squire, is always trying to redirect her away from doing terrible things. So he would be running after her, trying to tell her that his big excuse would be that she has taken a vow not to kill anyone on Thursdays. So he would be trying to tell her that it's Thursday, which she usually believes because she doesn't keep track of what day of the week it is. So, yeah, that would be.
I can relate to that. I don't know what day of the week is either.
that would be pretty hilarious. Yeah.
Well, for you, Arista, it is Thursday now.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is there any chance, Dave, that your squire was based on the page from Monty Python's Holy Grail?
Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Is that guy?
Yeah, no, that there's some similarity to that. He's, I think, much more long-suffering than that page in terms of having to deal with not just pomposity, but also real danger to the community that he's trying to head off all the time. But yeah, that's pretty. I hadn't thought of that, but that's pretty close to how their relationship works. Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, and Michael.
Well, my favorite holiday is Christmas. I just like the time off and, getting all together with family and doing some fun traditions. Maybe get crazy and throw things around the house. I don't know. My MC is L, and L would be it's a non-gendered main character. So when I say they, that's who I'm referring to, and they would be at first extremely shocked because of how much poverty they grew up in Canalis, where the great Archon rules. I would probably get a little nervous around present and gift giving time. I could get something amazing, maybe a wizard's lock that I can turn into a tome of calling so I can become a wizard. Maybe I get some scroll that kind of guides me. I don't know. These are things from the book, obviously. Not random presents from past Christmases.
That's like your place.
No, yeah. This is how this is Christmas at my house. We just give locks of hair to each other. It's very pagan-like. No, Elle is extremely ambitious and determined, and as long as they want to be a wizard so badly, as long as I'm not in the way of that, I feel like we'd have a good time. Elle's charismatic. Elle's got some good charisma. So
who has a cat?
Cat noises.
No, sorry, that's my cat.
I do. Mine just demanded to go out.
Everybody's cat is communicating. They're having their own
That's right.
under the radar panel here.
Close the door so mine can't get down here.
The servants are all talking again.
All right, Mike, what you got?
Do we want to do a serious question just once, or do we want to go back to silly? Okay, well,
I have no preference.
Take a vote.
Give a serious one. Let's do something serious.
Okay.
This list is great because it means I don't know what I'm even doing here anymore.
I ask that question all the time.
Wow.
How do you develop your fantasy worlds and their unique elements? And let's start with Paul because he's not looking at the camera.
Well, because you got me thinking. I can't make direct eye contact and think. It's weird. I'm weird.
feel that.
How do I develop my fantasy world element? I'm one of those weird guys who will seed my brain with ideas for about a year before I start writing. So my whole layered world building happens as I'm at the gym working out or walking the dogs and things like that, because they start out as just grains of ideas, and I start doing those, wonderful what if exercises. I learned, because I've written urban fantasy, lit RPG, epic fantasy, and then a bunch of horror thriller stuff. I learned early in my fantasy experience to be very careful about being too creative. I had some great ideas, and I had wonderful beta and ARC readers who said this stuff is cool, but it's not things we can anchor in. So I had too creative of a world, too creative of monsters and creatures, and it was hard for people to anchor to that and kind of ride along with the character. So I try to be a little more toned down and still be creative. So I've got to find my happy creative medium. But that's what I do. I start very granular and build up on that while trying to have some fun with it. I don't want to follow in too many footsteps, but I don't want to be overly creative either, because that creative ego, it takes those body shots sometimes, and you think you're giving something so fresh, and people go poo-poo on it. I try to listen to what people want and try to deliver that, but at the same time, do something I want to do as a creative.
Do you find the walks are really good?
Oh yeah. If I had better mic capability, I'd dictate when I walk, and I'll take 3-4 mile walks and just think. It's a wonderful time.
Yeah. Walking's the best. If you don't walk, you should, without headphones, just kind of walk and hear the noises and just have that app on your phone where you can record something, and you get just the best ideas on those long walks.
Mm-hmm.
So absolutely agree 100%. I driving. So my wife and I dated for long distance, about 2.5 hour drive apart for the first year we were dating. And I just, no music, no nothing, sometimes crack the window slightly. And I would just think through all the obstacles in my first book. And then I would pull out my phone and do voice recorder, and I would just talk. I almost never have to go back to listen to it. Once I say it out loud, it's like, boom, it sticks. It's like the picture is painted. Right. Yep. But totally agree. Having the space to let your brain just sink into the subconscious and start working through things, I think is one of the more important elements of being an author that people don't consider, is the amount of space to give themselves, not actively writing, but active passive space, if that makes any sense, like walking or driving in silence.
Yeah. Actively creating mental pictures. Yeah.
Roaming. Call it roaming space. I create roaming space.
It's funny you mentioned driving like that. In the early 90s, I was stationed in upstate New York, and I had to buy a new car with it 25 miles away from where I worked. And I just went to the dealer and said, give me 4 tires and a steering wheel, man. I don't even need a radio, right? And that's what I had. I had a car without a radio. And so I would drive half an hour, 45 minutes to work. And I did a weekly column for the newspaper that we were doing. And it was the best time to just kind of think of ideas, or see something and say, oh yeah, I can turn that into something, or whatever it is. And without fail, that's where I got probably 90% of my ideas for, a 600 word column every week. So turn off the radio.
Yeah. So Dave, how about you? Do you battle your cat? Is that what you do to relax?
That's what I'm doing now, unfortunately. I feel like a dilettante now hearing these guys. My background recently is in improv. And so I do all of my books from a blank page and just write as I go and do the world building kind of as I go along. And, I have to stop sometimes and plan stuff out, but mostly it's my books focus on characters and dialogue, I think, more than, you're never going to find 40 pages of dwarven poetry or something in mine. But yeah, the world kind of builds up around it. And when I've done additional books in the same world, then it's different because I have to go back and make sure that everything I built in the first books is still present and still functions in the second one. And that gets harder. And I think more like what the other guys are talking about. But yeah, mine is very seat of the pants, and I add things as I think they will be cool. And then, during the editing process, you have to go back and kind of make all of this make sense and be consistent and all of that. But yeah, I don't do a lot of, empty notebook of ideas kind of things. I just write and see what happens, which may explain my lack of success in the competition so far. But,
it makes a lot of sense working in improv, though, Dave, because I mean, your whole thing, your brain is wired to react to input like that. So once you put down what a character says, you're reacting to what that character does, and that just kind of keeps spinning out.
Yeah, and I think it helps me a lot writing dialogue and keeping it natural because I try to think, okay, I'm this character now. What would this character do or say? And I'm not trying to get to a plot point necessarily or a big reveal. It's kind of like it develops how it should. I don't know. But yeah, that's a very different approach, I think, than some people take, especially in fantasy where you're trying to get, the right history for each of your warring factions or whatever. And it's a much bigger deal.
Yeah. Hey, really quick before we get to Arista, Dave, do you have a really good putting a heckler in his place story?
Anybody who heckles improv is a real jerk. So we don't tend to get improv hecklers. I've done a little bit of stand-up, but so far I haven't had anybody just go at me. So yeah, no, I haven't had to work on that yet. Yeah, improv is more kind of team, and people in the audience are goodwill, and yeah. And the only people who heckle you are usually the people who thought they were going to stand up and don't don't understand that people are trying to make up something funny in front of them.
So what's your next performance? You can never say no.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Is that rule in improv that you can never say no?
Yeah, yes and is the fundamental thing. Yeah, so you build on whatever has happened, you try to justify it, you move it forward and elevate. But yeah, you don't want to block anything. So I guess that goes into my book writing, world building also.
And when is your next performance?
I don't know. I've just been in a community theater play for a while, so I'm not signed up for anything soon. But yeah,
we got a group of people here in Virginia, North Carolina. We can all down there one weekend and the hell out of you.
And we did not forget about you, Arista. So please tell us about how you develop your fantasy worlds and their unique elements. I had to read the question again because I'd forgotten it.
I actually sit somewhere in the middle. I used to just start with a blank page and just write, but I'd sort of get lost around the middle. And then I sort of figured out that the best way for me to write my books was to focus on what the characters wanted and what they needed in the world to tell their story. So I usually start with the characters, and then I build up all the elements that I need the characters to have to tell the story I want them to tell. So that's where I start with the world building, and then I expand out from the character with what I need. I usually spend about a week outlining now, and then I just dive straight into the story from there. So I'm sort of in the middle ground between the two.
Do you all find that you know pretty much where your story is going to end as you're starting it?
Mm-hmm.
I do, yeah.
Before we're done.
Can I actually answer the question? I didn't actually answer the question. I jumped in on the space thing, but I'll often have the ending before I have the beginning. So I don't want to misrepresent myself. I don't think while driving about the book before I write it. In fact, this book, I had the idea one night with my wife, and I proceeded to explain the trilogy to her in a 4-hour sitting, like as it hit me. And then I proceeded to write 20,000 words of it over the next 2.5 days out of 80,000 words. So like, it was like a boom. My whole stance is not as a pantser or a plotter. I call it a dancer. It's kind of more that in between that Arista was talking about, where I go with wherever the energy is. If my energy is going, okay, create today and like react to whatever's happening and go some new direction. I go, ooh, that's interesting. Let's go with that. And then if I hit a block, I'll go, okay, time to outline and plot a little bit. How does this graph on? So for me, world building is really, you kind of move with the energy of it, and just whatever is the most exciting thing to me is what I end up putting out there. Also, it's character and world building. They go hand in hand. They reflect each other. Sometimes I'm like, this character is part of the Order of the Sword. That's freaking cool. Let's make that a part of the world. Then sometimes I'm like, okay, part of the world. What would be a cool character to bring out of this? And then that melding of elements. I think a story emerges all at once, always. Yeah. Like it's always emerging as one thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you find sometimes you'll get to a point and then you'll be like, oh, I want to go in this direction, but that's not in my outline. You have to take a couple of hours to just edit your outline and just change the direction the story's going in?
Sometimes I personally, I don't know if you're asking me or everybody with the you, but I'm going to answer like you were talking to me. It's like, I use Scrivener, and my Scrivener, I have probably like, for the price of power, I probably have 15 or 20,000 words of just notes and outlining. And a lot of it is like, I wrote an outline and then I'll find an outline. And I go, oh, that's an old outline. Cause I'll redo outlines all the time. It's like all these characters. Okay. Outline. It's a very spastic approach to plotting, really.
Fluid is the word.
Try to keep it fluid. But now with multiple books, you got to kind of start to be like, oh shit. What did I say?
Yeah.
What does this character look like? What are their things? Okay, got to be accurate now because people have read it.
What color eyes did I give him?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, most of my books, I kind of know where they're going to go generally, but I don't know how they're going to get there. Or and so that the writing is sort of a process of discovery. Sometimes about halfway or 2/3 of the way through, I'll realize that I've thrown up a lot of balls and I need to start catching them, or nothing is going to be good. And so sometimes I do have to stop and kind of, write out, okay, this has to happen and this has to happen. And this is the callback to that thing. And so I will kind of have a last 10 chapters outlined sometimes, but I didn't need that for this book. Where I'm backwards. Because this one just flowed kind of naturally, and I knew where they were going and sort of how it would end, but how I got there was very different than I thought. Kenai, which you were holding up earlier, got so difficult that I had to actually write the last 6 chapters backwards. I had to write the ending, and then I had to write, okay, what would get to that? And then I had to write what would get to that. And then I actually, the story has some time stuff in it too. So that was really interesting to me that I kind of had to do it that way. That was the first time ever. But yeah, with this book, it just flowed and worked kind of that way. So
if I can go back to something Michael said real quick. Michael, you're fairly newlywed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you said you talked to your wife for 4 hours explaining something like that.
Yeah,
4 hours.
I just kind of it hit me, and then I just went, "Oh my gosh, what if I want to explain everything about all the classic wizard stuff? Like, why do they have the hats? Why do they have this? What is this? What are the little gems in their like staffs?" And so that was the whole concept. Was I'm going to explain the step-by-step process to become a wizard, and it took 4 hours.
Great that you're doing that now, because 10 years from now, when you try that shit, you're having no part of that conversation.
So true.
You have like a minute and a half. Right? The same way a lot of people are, like when they're watching football or something, and the spouse comes up and it's like, okay, you've got until this commercial, go.
I'm so glad you brought that up and made him answer that, because when he said 4 hours, I thought, why is he on the show instead of his wife? Because that's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. Get out of here.
Where's she at? Jess. She honestly, she's an angel, and she's actually read all of my books.
Good answer.
3 times. She loves them. So I picked the right one, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife is always.
She listened for 4 hours. I specifically say in the acknowledgments, I'm like, Jess, you're an angel for listening to me tell you this whole book. So I have to look at it. But you guys can move on.
Go ahead, Dave. What were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say my wife reads my books first and fills them with sticky tabs, and so she's my best editor immediately. So that is really cool. She won't sit there for 4 hours while I talk about them, but she will read them and give me all kinds of feedback. So that's super useful for me.
So
I've written 9 books. My wife has read exactly none of them.
Oh,
Not one.
My
So-
mum is my alpha reader.
See, that's difficult. But
She
my
is.
wife-
I can't
So
even.
that's okay.
Hey.
There you go.
Bless you. My wife's reasoning is very valid, and we've been married a very long time. And she says, I don't want to read it and not like it, because if I don't like it, I will tell you I don't like it. Right? Which would be great feedback that we would all pay for. But yeah, I don't.
Does everybody have a process for when they like? I hear you saying that, Ro, and when I did my first book, I was like, I'm only going to give this to 3 or 4 people who I know have the highest chance of liking it, so that I get positive validation back to keep going. Like, I want to know the strengths of the story to push, and then the next level was going to be, who are the people who I don't quite know who can give me some feedback, might like it, might not, I don't know. And then it would go to the general public where I'm going to face harsher criticism. So like, I had kind of a idea of what I wanted to do like that. Do you all have any kind of process around beta, alpha feedback readers?
So I'll tell you, for me, I write my first draft, and it would be cruel and unusual to make anyone read that.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I do a second draft. And then this time I went out on Fiverr. I wanted people who I didn't know, who didn't owe me anything, and be like, just be honest, because if I don't like what you say, I'll just say, well, you're stupid. And I just, will go on with my life. So, I did that, and then I rewrote that, and then I give it to my editor, who's Ro. And then he tears it apart and tells me it's shit. And then I fix it, and then I add adjectives, because apparently I don't do that till the very end.
It's so much fun. Be an editor.
I do it, but the people who have to read it early on, I feel for them, which is why I want them to be strangers, because otherwise I will owe them big time. So that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife reads it first, but I do a couple of revisions before she gets it, and then I have a couple of really good friends that have become my kind of alpha team. I don't know. That sounds cool. I should buy them T-shirts or something. And they have been super helpful. My dad usually will read my books. My mom only reads the mysteries and thrillers, but my dad will read anything, and they'll tell me what they think. And then that's usually enough to get through another draft for me with a bunch of revisions. And then I get it to my editor proofreader, and she gives me some feedback too. So yeah, that's the kind of cycle I have. It's not a lot of people, and I have hired Fiverr people a couple times, especially when I was writing a sequel to one book and wanted to know, can this stand alone? If you haven't read this book, does it make sense? And that was really helpful, because I wanted all of them to stand alone.
Mm-hmm. And same thing with me. I mean, I kind of the opposite. Only because, Michael, I know you said you were newer, you wanted that positive validation, which makes absolute sense. I had been podcasting for 9 years before I did it, and a lot of it was fictional. So if you've ever podcasted, you know that people who get stuff for free are the harshest critics in the world. And I grew very thick skin from that. So anything negative about books that I wrote after that wasn't, I mean, I didn't yearn for that constructive criticism, but it didn't hurt as much, thankfully. Thanks, podcasting experiences. But one of the things I do is, over those years, a lot of the people from the podcast had followed me through to the books. They'd been patrons on Patreon back then. They stayed with me, and I give them those exclusive first looks if it's readable, kind of like what Mike was talking about. That first draft often isn't, but so a half a year, 8-9 months before the world ever sees anything from that book, my patrons will have already read it, and they're a lot of them are really good about giving me that feedback, kind of like what Dave was saying, especially if I ask specific pointed questions too of what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, my mum's my alpha reader, so I will write it and then she will be the first person to read it. And she usually gives me a good idea of if I'm on track, because she's also my sounding board. So I'll talk through plot points with her, so she'll know where I want to go with it. And then she'll let me know if I'm on the right tracks. After that, I do about 5 rounds of self-edits. And then it goes to my editor. So I don't really have any beta readers.
Might fast track your edits a little bit. It might cut
does
one out.
It does a bit. I don't do a developmental edit. I do that myself.
It's not worth it.
In part with my outline before I start, and then like I said, I do 5 rounds of self edits before it goes off to my editor, and she does copy edit and proofread for me. And then I just hope it works.
All right. Well, we've got a few minutes left. We're going to go through you all one more time, give you a last chance to let us know what your book is that you have in the contest, if you have any other books in other contests, and if you have a website or something, we can maybe punch those up really quickly. I don't know if I say that. I don't know if we're going to be able to.
But before we start, can I just jump in real quick? I just want to say, Dave, way back when I went to college, I couldn't decide if I want to be a geologist or a chemist. And I figured I could get a job if I was a chemist. So always want to be a geologist, and I never did. So,
it is cool. It's like you're living a Nova special every day at work. You know, it's I really loved it. Plus, you get to do chemistry and physics and all kinds of other stuff too. It's a very integrated thing.
So the book I'm writing now, my dwarves, they all have names of rocks. The main character is Feldspar.
That's a great name. That's a great name.
So, but anyway, let's see. Michael, tell us about your book and where we can find it and how you're going to throw elbows when you make it to the finals.
I'm already throwing elbows. Me and David Hopkins and Kareem Solomon, we've we're talking a lot of shit privately, which is good because it's real that way. It's not for the public, okay? This is for us. It's a blood feud. So my book, Way of the Wizard, it just released an ebook yesterday. Hopefully the physicals will be ready soon. This is like the 9th proof copy from Amazon. They cannot stop messing it up. But it released yesterday worldwide. Nice. It's got gangs of treacherous wizards duking it out in the wild. I mean, wizard gangs. Sounds great, right? Bloodthirsty unicorns, philosopher giants, just lots of twists on old classic tropes. It's a very fast-paced, short read, palate cleanser, some have called it, at 80,000 words, and unidentified gender for the MC, if that intrigues anybody. And yeah, it's in SPFBox. It's in the Before We Go blog pool. I have my other series, The Price of Power, is a former semifinalist and a DNF for Bookborn. So, go see what that's about. Does it deserve it? Did it not? I don't know. You decide and buy it.
Okay, Dave? Yeah, so my book, I have now figured out where to sit so that I can point at it. It is right here. It just released yesterday, so I don't have a cool paperback or anything like that. Nice. It is The Glorious and Epic Tale of Lady Isovar. It is actually named by Lady Isovar in the story, so that's why it has such a silly name. She is a completely brash and headstrong lady knight who's fearless and wants to go around and smite miscreants and do battle and collect valor. And so that's her whole deal. And her squire, who is also in the picture there, is kind of the sanity check on everything that she wants to do. And he just tries to direct her towards things that are not going to hurt anybody. And he also has done something bad a long time ago that he wants to fix. And so he keeps trying to steer her towards places where he can maybe right that wrong that he did long ago. The book is extremely silly. They have sort of groaner one-liners when they fight monsters. A lot of the monsters they're fighting are silly. You have there's a necromancer who dresses in pink, but that's because his laundry guy always ruins his robes out of spite. There's just all sorts of. There's a dragon named there are all kinds of just ridiculous, silly stuff going on. So I tried to my other books I try to make them funny, but kind of more serious. This one, I kind of just let it go and made it as silly as it could possibly be. So that is the fun of it. I also modeled it after, this is going to sound pompous and academic, but that's me. I'm a professor. I modeled it after medieval lays, the stories of knights errant who would run across the landscape and fight monsters and do battle and all of that. So that's sort of the model of the story, even though it has way more dad jokes than Tristan and Isolde or something like that. Yeah.
Did you say it had a dragon in it?
It does. There's a dragon. She has a temper.
Awesome.
Can't
go wrong with a dragon.
She's 4 centuries old and tells everybody that all the time. So
And how long is your book?
It's 104,000 words. So.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. Not a chunker, but full novel length. Yeah.
For a comedy, it's long, I think. But
yeah, I don't know. I'm sure people will tell me that. So.
And I'm not even bitter. Paul, save me.
That's a hard act to follow up. Okay, so Thornbane the Lost, my first entry into this wonderful contest.
Closer.
Show closer. Thornbane the Lost.
Too far.
There we go. We'll find it. Here you are. There's the special effects. I've got a high special effect budget. She is a mourning widow who has to return home for political reasons. The barony she had traveled to wed no longer wants her because of some nice backstory I don't want to give away. Anyway, while she's home mourning her loss, the barony is attacked by an orcish army, and which basically kicks off this curse that's been a generation in the waiting. So she's transformed from a human into this demon that everybody, her own people, rejects. So she's out on her own in the world. And I really wanted to kind of harken back to like the old Dragonlance stories that I remembered of, parties going off and on adventures. And I hadn't had a chance to ever really do one of those. So that's what this trilogy became. It's just watching her journey from being cursed and rejected by everybody she loved and trusted, and having to kind of rely on herself to tap into her dormant, unknown magical potential and watch her go kick ass for 3 books, which is what she basically does. It's a trilogy. This came out in March. The second book came out 4 weeks ago, and the third book comes out in like 26 days. Wow. So yeah, this one's 105,000, and then they just obviously get bigger after that, as you're wont to do, the curse of the fantasy author. But yeah, it's been a fun ride, and it's going to be interesting. I've never released so many books so quickly like this to start and finish. So we'll see how that goes. I'll learn, that's for sure.
And Arista, tell us about Changeling.
Changeling is my only book. It's my debut. It's 100.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's 108,000 words. It came out March last year, and I'm fingers crossed should get the second one out later this year. Lizzie, it opens with Lizzie trying to leave the Fey realm for the mortal realm because her mother has gone missing and she wants to find out what happened to her. But it's illegal, so she hijacks a portal and then finds her way to the mortal realm, which isn't just inhabited by humans, but also vampires and their insane cousins, the Cavians, who happen to have a taste for Fey blood. So she drags her best friend along with her too.
As you do, yeah.
Exactly. You can't go on your own.
Is this like a very dark vibe, or like more like light?
I think I wouldn't call it dark. I mean, it's got vampires, so there's some fight scenes, there's some blood, but I wouldn't call it anything close to grimdark or anything like that. So.
All right. Well, thank you all very much. Appreciate you taking the time.
Lizzie's best friend, Booker.
Arista, thank you staying up till 1 in the morning.
Mhm.
Oh, it's fine. Like I said, I'm a night owl, so.
Now you're a morning owl, so.
Well, yeah. If it's dark, I'm fine.
Okay. All right, everybody. Mike's going to hit a button.
All right. Thank you, guys.
We're all ready to
Thanks,
say
everybody.
Thanks for having me.